بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم.
Tarkashi yanzu kuma lokaci ne na neman lada domin watan Ramadan ya karatu, wata mai albarka ya sake dawowa. Don haka muna kira ga daukacin musulmi domin daukar nauyin waɗansu daga cikin shirye-shiryenmu masu albarka, tsoffi da ma sabbi. Kiran sallah, tafsirin alkur'ani mai girma, karatun alkur'ani mai girma, tattaunawa akan abubuwan da suka shafi watan Ramadan mai albarka, shirinmu mai suna matan aljanna, shirinmu na yara manyan gobe domin matasa masu tasowa, shirinmu na sauro special kai tsaye daga tashar Citizen FM. Allah ya ce wa zai bani bashi, ni kuwa in biya shi ranar kiyama. Tabbas lokaci yayi domin daukar nauyin ɗaya daga cikin waɗannan shirye-shirye, sai ka tuntube mu a lambar waya kamar haka: 0806377823 ko kuma 0817396428.
نعمة الله عليكم هل من خالق غير الله يرزقكم من السماء والأرض.
Hello, Abuja. You are listening to 93.7 Citizen FM, the latest radio station based in Nigeria's capital. Our station seeks to broadcast a broad mix of culture and views with priority given to development programming to enable residents share ideas and opinions, music and drama. At Citizen FM, we believe in progressive talk and solution-driven conversation. Our aim is to build a united Nigeria by bringing people of diverse culture together through communication. Enjoy listening to 93.7 Citizen FM. We are more than just a radio station. We are a part of your life. Abuja. Wake up. Reach out. Speak up. Speak out. You are the voice of a new generation. And this is your station. Talk Radio 93.7 Citizen FM.
Hello, thank you for joining us on Inside. It's the first edition on the first working day after the weekend election. It was really a weekend of intense drama characterized by anxiety, reports of violence, intimidation, use of sheer brute force and other forms of social behaviors. But then some would ask, what else do you expect in an election held in Nigeria? The traditional media have been keeping tabs on the result as they trickle in, while the social media has been abuzz with all manners of information and narratives. Results so far announced by INEC have shown that the ruling All Progressives Congress is celebrating big wins across the country and reasserting itself in power, while flipping states previously won by the opposition People's Democratic Party. Although PDP has struggled to come back in many states, especially after the February presidential election. In sweeping victories, many APC governors will secure re-election across the 6 geopolitical zones, with extensive triumph at the State Assembly. And just a few of them APC governors who secured re-election include Babajide Sanwo-Olu of Lagos, Ino Ayaya of Gombe State, Dapo Abiodun of Ogun State, Mai Malabuni of Yobe, and Abdurrahman Abdurazak of Kwara State, and so many others. On its part, PDP, aside re-electing Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State, cleared Akwa Ibom State, In Anambra State, the governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, reportedly maintained dominance in the House of Assembly with his All Progressives Grand Alliance, despite the initial, some would say, intimidation of the Labour Party, which had the former governor of the state as his face. So, all this we are going to look at in this edition of Insight. And I have my guests already on the line. Jide Ojo, a development expert and a media professional. Jide, thank you so much for being part of this program this morning.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Abuja. Good morning, Nigeria. Good morning, Africa. Good morning, the universe. It's a pleasure to be on your show this morning.
Okay, and you can join our live stream on YouTube by simply typing in Citizen FM 93.7 and you'll be part of the show. You can also listen to us online by also through www.citizenfm.ng. Not forgetting our social media platforms on Facebook at Citizen FM Abuja, on Instagram at Citizen FM 937, and also on Twitter at Citizen FM 937. So that's what we are going to talk about today. More likely throughout this week, a lot of reactions looking at a lot of angles after the governorship and the state assembly's election. Well, starting from today, Jide, generally, before we even go into the details, because we have quite a lot to talk about, but generally, how was this election to you? Because I know that you, apart from being a journalist, you also observe election and you also do some interpretations. But generally speaking, just give us your insight into Saturday's election.
Okay, thank you very much. My thing has come and gone, and we are still okay. Obviously, because in many states there's no year closure, the governorship election result hasn't been declared. However, in about half of the 28 states, results are already known, and winners have already been declared, some of which you have mentioned. But let me start from the processes and procedures. The major complaints in March on February 25, 2023 national elections was INEC starting the election late in many of the polling units, 176,606 polling units where the election took place, both on February 25 and March 18. 25 reported that in most of the polling units, there was a logistic challenge preventing INEC officials from starting as scheduled. Election was supposed to be held from 8:30 in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. However, in many places, election did not start until about 11 a.m. or 12 noon. Of course, INEC insisted whoever will sit before 4 p.m. will sit there attended to. So we saw in Abuja, for instance, particularly Lugbe area of Abuja, where election went into midnight, and results came only early in the morning of the following day. So, long story short, compared to what obtained, two critical issues or flaws that the February 25 Act was largely absent on March 18. And what are the late commencement of poll and then the failure to upload the results on IREF as promised by INEC. But on March 18, we saw most of the polling units waiting for voters and seamless, but at least logistically speaking, we can say that INEC overcame the earlier challenge this time around. Most of the polling units are open on time. And then when you look at the uploading of polling unit results, through the use of this March 18, we started seeing upload of most of the polling unit results. As of today, I'm sure any state that hasn't crossed 80%, if there is any state that hasn't crossed 80%, then I will not be, I'm not sure if there. So most of the polling unit results are already on the IRS portal. So it means that the glitches that INEC experienced on February 25th has been resolved. And now people can follow the results real time as it gets uploaded on the polling units. However, much as one will want to commend the Independent National Electoral Commission for doing a better job than what they did on February 25th, it will seem like the political class took over the umbrage from INEC and went haywire.
Okay.
As of yesterday, Vanguard newspaper reported over 20 deaths arising from this March 18 election.
Okay, Jide, we will deal extensively with that in the course of this program, and I'm sure that we'll have a lot. But let's look. You mentioned two critical areas that I initially wanted to talk about, and that's the movement of logistics in terms of logistics, and also the upload of results, which you rightly pointed out, INEC did better this time around. But I want us to look at some of the results because let's just do a quick random assessment of some of the results in some of the states before we come back to look at some other issues that we witnessed during the election. Let's start from Lagos. Jide, you remembered when the last time I had you on the program, and you said that the results of the presidential election may not be the same picture that we will have in the governorship election in Lagos. We know that a lot of dynamics was into play. And now, take us through it. What kind of dynamics played out this time around that we had a different result?
Thank you. Again, as a political scientist, as an observer, as a development consultant, I knew that the picture of February 25 is an illusion. It's an illusion to the extent that it was driven by just one person, and that is the former governor of Anambra State, Peter Obi, who is the other head of the obedience movement. So what you saw in Lagos on February 25 and in many other Christian-dominated from southern Kaduna to Nasarawa to Benue to Plateau down to the entire south and southeast was because Peter Obi as their Messiah, quote and unquote, they saw him as the face of the obedience movement or a revolutionary. And they did everything to support him to victory. Unfortunately, when that ambition of getting Peter Obi to become president-elect did not materialize, I knew that the obedient movement would lose momentum. There was no enthusiasm to pursue further. You see, this has been the case with Labour Party. Even at the state level, when Labour Party won through Mimiko was like, they call it Mimiko de Iroko in Ondo State. You remember, he resigned from being a minister of urban development or something under Obasanjo to go and contest in 2003. He resigned to go and contest under Labour Party. Within 3 months, he resigned in December of 2002, or was it 2000? Of when Mimiko took over in Ondo State. I think it was 2006 that he resigned. Yes, it was 2006. He resigned Former secretary to the state government under Adefarati, then he became commissioner for health, then after that, he became a minister of the Federal Republic. So in 2006, Miniko resigned under Obasanjo to go and pursue governorship ambition. And which party did he join? He decided to go and run under the Labour Party. And it became a revolution akin to what we have with obedient movement. And it struck the entire Ondo State. Within 3 months, it turned Labour Party to the party of choice in Ondo State. And that's when you build party around individuals. And so what happened, of course, Mimiko won that election. It was rigged out. It went to court, was in court for like 3 years. Eventually, he reclaimed his victory, and he served 2 terms as governor of Ondo State. Now, the same has happened with obedient movement, just that this is happening on a larger scale, on a nationwide scale. Now, obedient movement remains Peter Obi joined Labour Party in May, about May 27, May 28 of 2022. And then he revolutionized the Labour Party platform. Many people would belong to the Labour Party. He created the obedient movement. Before you know it, it became like a wildfire. But the zeal, enthusiasm to get it to become president died on March 1 when Ashwadi Bola Ahmed Tinubu was announced as the winner. And rightly so, because really speaking, and in fairness, much as Peter Obi run a very good way, given the challenges that he needs to overcome, there is no way he could have been the president-elect in 2023, because he was dealing with entrenched parties, PDP and APC, that has bigger, better structures.
Okay.
But that is not for me to say.
Okay.
Now let me come back to why, what now happened in Lagos and in many other places, because you can't take Lagos in isolation. Lagos changed, Oyo changed. Remember, Oyo voted massively for Ashwadi on February 25. But this time around, they decided to put PDP. Look at Nasarawa. Nasarawa went the way of Labour Party. Today, the governor winner of the governorship election in Nasarawa State. Look at Yobe. Yobe went PDP in 2017. Today, with Gombe. Governor Abdullah Inuwa won his re-election under APC. Meanwhile, Gombe went the way of PDP on February 25. So what happened in Lagos cannot be taken in isolation. One, the Christian community who voted against Tinubu candidacy, who voted against APC, this time around, Sanwo-Olu is a Christian, just like Gbadebo Rosrival is a Christian. So you cannot use religion on the basis of campaign in 20 February on March 18. Then the incumbency factor work for Sanwo-Olu. The fact that there is this campaign of calumny against Gbadebo Rosrival, that is Igbo. He cannot even speak Yoruba language. His mother is Igbo. His wife is Igbo. And of course, it was said that it was imposed on the Labour Party by Peter Obi. I don't know if that's true. So the APC people went to town to claim that victory will mean they're taking over the political space of Lagos. After they have taken over the commercial space, if they now have the political power, that means Lagos indigenes who are Yoruba may start even.
Okay, we're sorry about that. We lost Jide Ojo there. We're making efforts to reconnect with him. We'll be back in a moment. Please don't go away. Thank you so much for staying tuned. It's still Insight on Citizen FM 93.7. And it's still the election series review of the governorship and state assembly election. And my guest is Jide Ojo, who is a media professional and a development expert. Jide was talking about the dynamics that played out in Lagos. Jide, thank you for being back on the show.
My pleasure.
Okay, you can continue, Jide. You were giving us the background dynamics of what played out in Lagos, and that this was not in isolation, and you were trying to bring out parallel examples in other states.
Okay, so like I said, you know, when you look at what happened across the country, pan Nigeria, you find out that many parties that voted PDP in the last dispensation now voted APC for governorship. And those that voted APC ended up voting PDP this time. Let me give specifics. So in Oyo State, the 33 local government of Oyo State was won by APC on February 25. But this time around, say for two local governments, Governor Seyi Makinde of PDP had an overwhelming victory under PDP, just barely 3 weeks interval. The same thing when you look at Governor Inuwa of Gombe. Gombe voted PDP in the last transition. Now they voted APC. In Nasarawa here, Governor Abdullahi Sule has just this morning been announced as winner under APC. Other rivals, and this Nasarawa that went the way of Labour Party in 3 weeks ago. Then you go to Yobe. Yobe voted PDP 3 weeks ago. On February 25, now they have voted APC. And likewise, we now saw the only few states that have some consistency is NNPP Kano. NNPP has been declared winner of governorship election in Kano this morning. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they voted NNPP 3 weeks ago, they voted. But when you look specifically at Lagos as the epicenter of political dynamics in Nigeria, I said, maybe when you lost me there, that I didn't expect Badebo revival to upset the apple cart for simple reason that, one, Labour Party is new in Lagos. Not that it has not been in existence, but it's been a dormant party. And it is Peter Obi and the Obedient Movement that rev up and revive Labour Party. And I gave the example that Labour Party has history of building the party around individuals. So I gave the example of Mimiko, former governor of Ondo State. Who resigned under Obasanjo in 2006. And by January 2007, became the candidate of Labour Party for the governorship election in 2007. And within 3 months, he turned the fortune of Labour Party around in Ondo State and won convincingly. He was robbed of victory. He went to court, and the court declared him as the winner of that election. But what happened? By the time Mimiko was on his second term, he jumped ship and went back to PDP. And Labour Party died again. That's only for it to be revived by Peter Obi in May of 2022, when he joined, I think, May 20th, 2022. By the time he joined, given his clout, his anti-corruption nature, his prudent nature, many young people saw him as a messiah of sorts and decided to create the obedient movement around it. And the moment the obedient movement could not get Peter Obi to presidency, there is now loss of enthusiasm. And so in Lagos, many people voted Peter Obi. Now Peter Obi is no longer on the ballot. Gbadebo Rosaivo, who is now the Labour Party candidate in Lagos, is seen as an imposition from Peter Obi himself. Not only that, it is also believed that he's inexperienced. He hasn't worked in any significant organization. Aside from that, he's also perceived as being Igbo, given the fact that his mother is Igbo, his wife is Igbo. He couldn't even speak Yoruba language, and of course, he was alleged to have participated actively during the NSAS protest, and also claimed to be an IPOBian, that he was an IPOB commander. Some of this he has debunked. But beyond that, Labour Party in Lagos also was divided. There is a professor that claimed that is the standard bearer of the candidate of Labour Party and not Gbadebo Rosaivo. So, I mean, even up to the eve of the election, there was uncertainty as to whether Gbadebo or that professor, Awamari, something, the candidate. But beyond that, unlike February 25, when you could play the religious and ethnic card, you can't play religious and ethnic card on March 18. Dr. Sanwo-Olu is a Christian of Pentecostal instruction, and you could see him moving. He turned an evangelist and usher before March 18, going from one church to the other, getting endorsement from PFN, from many general overseers and religious leaders of Christian extraction in Lagos. So you can't use Muslim ticket that was offensive to many Lagosians on February 25th.
Okay.
That, because they fielded the Muslim ticket, so they won't vote APC. So all of those factors didn't play out on March 18th.
Okay, Jide, you've practically, I think, laid bare those dynamics across the state. So we just move. Just to support your theory, so to speak. But this time around, I think the only consistency, maybe perhaps you could say in the South was Akwa Ibom State, where you had Akwa Ibom vote Atiku in presidency and also PDP in governorship. But then let's leave that. In Sokoto State,
but the NNPP also voted NNPP.
Yeah.
Both. So it's also similar.
Yeah, but you see, we've not had any upset, so to speak, in terms of sitting governors losing their seats. But the closest that we've had is in Sokoto State, where the APC took over Sokoto State. What do you think happened there?
Again, when you go back in history in 2019, APC lost by the narrowest of margin. Just about 350 votes was what Abuja used to defeat his closest rival and the former deputy governor then. It's not as if PDP was overwhelmingly popular in Sokoto. And, Sokoto, even on February 25th, had the peculiarity of having all the three senatorial elections declared inconclusive. I don't know why that happened. It's just to tell you how hotly contested those elections have been.
Okay, Jide, before we go to other issues, another very interesting scenario played out in Ogun State. Although the incumbent governor was returned, but it was a very small margin. And this also brought to fore the no love lost between the incumbent governor and the former governor of the state.
My reading of that is that election may actually not, that declaration may not stand. You know why?
Why?
The allegation is that some polling unit results were cancelled in Ikene, a couple of local governments, which will have upturned the outcome, which will have maybe have effect on who eventually becomes the government. So the PDP in Ogun State is challenging because I think he was declared winner. Governor Abiodun was declared winner with about 10,000 votes or thereabouts over Ladi Adebutu Lado. Unfortunately, you mentioned Amuson. Amuson is not even supporting Ladi Adebutu against Abiodun. He was supporting the ADC candidate in Yewa West. That's Otegbe, B.E. Otegbe. He was the one that he was being supported by former Governor Ibikunle Amosun. So when you look at what Ibikunle Amosun's protest, Otegbe score, which was about 94,000, what Ladi scored, which was over 200,000, and then what the Governor Abiodun scored, which is, also a marginal victory. If truly some polling unit results that were cancelled could have influenced the winner or loser, then the margin of lead should have applied, and that election should ordinarily have been declared inconclusive, and INEC should have gone back to those areas where there were violence to have a supplementary election there in order to have who eventually will be but that is at the realm of speculation. That's the claim from the PDP in Ogun State. But again, it tells you how unpopular the incumbent governor of Ogun State is, Prince Abiodun. If actually although Ladi also did contest in 2019, and his father is very influential, Adebutu, Kasinti Adebutu, Babajebu, who is a very popular businessman in the Jebu area of Ogun State, and he was riding on the clout of his father. Ladi happens to have been a former member of House of Representatives. So for him to have almost caused an upset in Ogun State shows how unpopular the governor of Ogun State is. But let's see what eventually will play out, whether INEC will review that result and declare the election inconclusive, or maybe it's the court that will have the honor of doing that on behalf of INEC. We'll wait to see.
Okay, maybe the court will have the honor. Okay, I say maybe they'll have the burden of doing that.
Maybe the burden, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Not the honor.
Jide, now, something that we noticed, which became, some would say widespread, was the return of violence in the election. We noticed a lot. Journalists were attacked. INEC confirmed that a lot of their staff was also attacked, and so many other things. And these are issues that we thought we had moved past in our election circle.
Unfortunately, no, not. Like I said earlier on, about 20 lives, the last count by Vanguard Municipal have been lost to the Saturday election. These are noble ends. You could also see abduction of 19 INEC officials in Imo State. Luckily, they were rescued, but the voting materials and the beavers never got rescued. You also saw the invasion of Ugoja Collation Point, the invasion of the collation point, Obingwa Collation Point in Abia, and several other invasions across, even in close by Kogi State, where INEC officials also went through harassment, intimidation, just like voters in Lagos also were aroused and intimidated. This goes back to the Machiavellian principle of the end justifies the means. I think it's just that politicians have not learned anything. and they are still copying from the same text. I recall that on the eve of the February 25th election, the Labour Party candidate in Enugu State, Enugu East, was shot and murdered in cold blood. That election has to be interdicted, and they just had a rerun of that on Saturday. And luckily, the younger brother of the slain Labour Party candidate, who was put forward by the Labour in Enugu State, have now been able to defeat the former governor, Chimaroke Namadi, over the last year. But you can just imagine the loss to the family, the breadwinner getting murdered in cold blood just 3 days to the national elections. And so across the country, you find wide range of, structural, physical, and psychological violence. We don't know what's happening in Adamawa now, given the damning case. There are allegations of, manipulations and all of that. We are also not mindful of the Kano has to even impose curfew after the announcement of the official result. Somebody posted on Facebook that he mentioned the name, that his house and his office have been raped in Kano. So this is bringing post-election conflict, and that's the part of the reason schools were shut down, universities were shut down, purportedly to allow students to vote, but I think likely to avoid a situation where students will be mobilized to protest the outcome of the election. So we still have to live with this specter of both electoral violence across the country. But we also must be mindful of characterization. Much as I agree that there are violence in many parts, we should also not generalize, because the election was largely peaceful across many states. At least in Oyo State, where you have pre-election violence, on election day and after the election, it has been very peaceful. It is the campaign that was even most virulent and violent. That is despite the signing of peace accord on 2 occasions. This is the first time peace accord was signed twice. First on September 29, and also in the week of February 25th. They signed this peace accord, but they really didn't respect the letters and the spirit of that peace accord. So I think the political gladiators, political class, they use this Machiavellian principle of the end justifies the means. They just wanted to have power by all means, all possible means.
Okay.
And this is not right.
Okay, Jide, this has also maybe brought back the call, the fervor of which people were calling for the establishment of the Electoral Offences Commission. Do you think in any way that the establishment of such a commission would deter politicians, most times who intentionally flout electoral processes?
Well, it remains to be seen. I'm also in support of Electoral Offences Commission. For what reason? Because right now, the scenario we have is that INEC only prosecutes. INEC do not have power to make arrests and do not have power to investigate, but police does. So if you have Electoral Offences Commission, the power to arrest, investigate, and prosecute will be concentrated in one body. But right now, much as I think the House of Reps or Senate has passed that bill, the other chamber has not concurred.
Is the Senate that has passed?
Okay, the Senate passed, the House has refused to concur. Now, the challenge I also foresee is that even if that law is passed and signed to by the president, what if there's poor funding? Because you have a Code of Conduct Bureau, which is even a constitutionally recognized body and established body, that is being staffed of funds and it's not performing optimally. You get what I'm saying? So you can also have that, because this Electoral Offences Commission, Tribunal, and Commission would be like Code of Conduct Bureau and Code of Conduct Tribunal. So it will be 2 in 1. So, but what if you establish it and refuse to fund it? And then, prosecution takes a lot of resources. And you are going to be dealing with people who will even appropriate the funds for this commission. And they are the culprits. They are the ones that usually will commit those electoral offenses. So they may deliberately not even fund the commission even when established. So, and you also need to learn, my brother, you cannot legislate attitude. It's the attitude of our political class that is reprehensible. They just don't believe in rule of law. They don't believe in due process. They believe that the end justifies the means, which is like the Machiavellian principle. And then we run a winner-takes-all system. Because once you win, you become all the pets of office it belongs to you. And once you lose, you also lose heavily, and there's no mitigating force. So this has made politicians to be very violent, because it's a very capital-intensive project. Imagine how much APC sold its nomination funds. The costless since the inception of that party. 100 million for presidential nomination, from 50 million for governorship, I think 20 million for Senate, and 10 million for House of Reps. Now look at how much that is. That's huge. That's not something that you call chicken money. So that's even to buy nomination form. You have not won. You still have to settle delegates, have to campaign. Then you become the standard bearer of the party. And the next thing is you are also going to be, you are also expected to fund your campaign. The party is standing aloof, watching you from far. And then you have all these. This is the first time we also ran campaign for 150 days, unlike in the past where election campaign was for 90 days. And that is why the campaign finance ceiling was exponentially increased. Recall that in the 2022 Electoral Act, the amount that a candidate can spend on as a presidential candidate has been increased from 1 billion to 5 billion. And that of governors from 200 million to 1 billion, and down the ladder. And the list is councillorship from 1 million to 5 million. So you find out that when people invest so much, many people have to sell their property, their real estate, they sell they expended their life savings and contest election. They want to give it all it takes. And that's including playing fair and foul. So when you look at the cost of contesting and running campaigns in Nigeria, is huge, and that makes people to be desperate for success. Okay. And you know that the election is not yet concluded, because there is still post-election dispute resolution, and the election dispute resolution could be as even costly, if not costlier, than what you spend during campaigns. Because for governorship, that will start from the tribunal to Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. That's three-layered contestation. It's the costless ever. Because if it's presidential election, the Court of First Instance in the presidential election this resolution is the Court of Appeal. So you move from Court of Appeal to Supreme Court. But for governorship, you start from tribunal. So the tribunal, governorship election tribunal rules, you go to Court of Appeal. The Court of Appeal rules, you say, no, you want to go to Supreme Court. And look at the array. Just look at how much you need, how many lawyers have been arranged. Someone says that this is the boom season for lawyers. And for the presidential candidates alone, look at how many lawyers each of them has put together. And that does not come cheap at all.
Yeah, Jide, I was just chuckling when you were talking about the boom season. You know, every profession, they have their boom season. This might be the boom season for lawyers. I remember just recently, it was for the POS operators and some bankers, and also we had a boom.
It's also boom season for the media.
Exactly.
Remember, for the period of campaigns, many of you charge cutthroat advertising. So you also have made your own money.
that was for the exclusive clubs, especially for the big networks. That was the boom season for them, and also even petrol attendants. You have their boom season, and in fact, I think their boom season is always very frequent, on and on. But Jide, I think we just have 2 minutes to round this off. If you were in a position to just look at the whole situation and say, what can we do to get us back to where we were supposed to be in terms of elections, what would you say?
We need to break the culture of impunity. Right now, there's a lot of impunity in the system. Lots of impunity. So people commit murder, they get away with it. They commit felony, they bomb. Look at the majority leader of House of Reps that allegedly sponsored killings in Kano and arson and killing. And that's why they don't want the Electoral Offences Commission bill to come. So what I think is the way forward is, apart from sensitization, you will need to get the extant law implemented. That culture of impunity needs to be broken, because those who are committing these crimes knows that there are laws against it. In fact, the whole chapter of the Electoral Act talks about electoral offences, but situations where only the small files, only the hirelings get convicted, and many of them even get away scot-free, because at the end of the day, they will just say that the state may give nolly prosecute, that the state is not interested in prosecuting again if they found out that it's members of their party or their loyalists that are being prosecuted. So you find this very challenging. That I think there's no two way about it. Enforcement of extant law is very key. And after enforcement is also continuous voter education, political education, to tell people why it's a crime against humanity to engage in acts of electoral violence, and that a victory that is tainted or with blood of innocent citizens cannot be enjoyed in peace. But we are just a religious country. Many of those who sponsor these killings and maimings and nothing, they are also religious in their own ways. They don't need human services, they don't need church services, but then they are evil-minded. And that is why, I wish God can expedite judgment on those who are sponsoring this guy. But while we wait on God, we also must enforce the extant laws which has criminalized this act of violence.
All right. Thank you so much, Jide Ojo, media professional and development expert, ever reliable. Thank you so much for being our guest on Insight.
My pleasure. Always a pleasure.
All right, so that's a package on Insight. The program returns tomorrow with still the election series, and we'll talk about some other issues concerning the just concluded election. My name is Lawrence Umoette. Enjoy the rest of your day.